With more than 100 years of experience between the four of them, covering Minnesota high school athletics, the Minnesota Sun newspaper's sports editors bring you Sun on Sports.
Back with our third segment of Sun on Sports for this week. I'm Mike Shaughnessy, joined by Nick Clark, Greg Kleven, John Sherman. Nick, in the Northwest Suburban, we have a game taking place this week for first place in the conference with Andover traveling to Blaine.
Yeah, it's the one that a lot of people have been waiting for. I guess a lot of people originally were curious to see if Andover would survive and get to this game undefeated still. Looks like they're going to do that. They needed a miracle come from behind win to beat Sherman Park in week 5. They scored twice in the final minute to overcome a deficit and win 19-18. Chase Vasquez scored both of those touchdowns for Andover. The first one was landing on a teammate's fumble in the end zone with 50-something odd seconds left. And then as time expired, he caught a 9-yard touchdown pass to for the last 6 points. Andover needed to complete the comeback. They head into Blaine undefeated and sitting on top of the conference. And more importantly, probably now, is they're in control of that top seed in Section 7. Blaine is in that field as well. And Blaine's a team, it's a one-loss team. They narrowly escaped their homecoming game, beating Champlin Park by 3. And their lone loss was earlier to Centennial. But they seem to have gotten back on track since then. Quarterback Eric Klein has come in and really done a nice job of kind of just taking over where James Peterson had picked off last year. Remember, Peterson was the kid who got Blaine pretty much, a lot of people single-handedly, did a lot of the work getting to the Prep Bowl last year, beating Eden Prairie and Cretin in back-to-back weeks to get them there. They got a fantastic running back, Mike Ty, little guy, slippery little guy, but he's elusive and he's got some pretty good speed. So if they can get that combination working, which they likely will, they'll probably be able to hang with Andover. We're probably going to see a lot of points in this one if the weather's good, which it hasn't been, I guess, the last couple of weeks. But if it is good, you can see some points put up between these two teams, with a lot on the line.
Well, that takes care of our main Class 5A conferences. John, can you point me to another game that you're taking a look at this week?
Oh, Mike, I could point you to a number of games, but I'll keep it brief. One game that I'm going to be watching is Thursday night. We're going to have Spring Lake Park playing St. Louis Park, SLP versus SLP. And that game is going to be up at Spring Lake Park. Spring Lake Park, traditionally one of the best teams in the metro area year after year. St. Louis Park has had a little bit of a down year, a little bit of a disappointing year, but still has an excellent quarterback, the Metro passing leader, Greg Hines. He's got Trey Munson as his main receiver, Zach Brown in the backfield to handle the running game. Park's defense has been a question mark this year, St. Louis Park that is, and they have to shore that up before the playoffs, but they're still very optimistic about the rest of the season. I also wanted to mention one game that's a non-conference game. Minnetonka is going out to play at Stevens Point, Wisconsin. That'll be Friday, October 16th. And Parker Weinstock, Minnetonka's running back, has been coming on like gangbusters. He had back-to-back 200-yard games recently, and you can't beat that Minnetonka defense with the leadership from Bo Allen up front and linebacker Jimmy Gildea. They're just an excellent defensive team. So hopefully Minnetonka can go on the road and show Stevens Point a little bit about Minnesota football.
Greg, Richfield goes to Oakdale this week on Wednesday the 14th to play Tartan in a classic suburban conference matchup. Educate me a little bit about Richfield, because every time I look at theirs, I look up their scores and their box scores. Seems to me they're beating teams that I don't expect them to beat, and they're losing to teams that it seems like they should beat.
They've been a little inconsistent, Mike. You're right. They did have a nice homecoming win over Grand Rapids, non-conference. And basically, if their defense plays well, the team will do well. Their defense did not play very well against South St. Paul, and they ended up losing by over 5 touchdowns. Then they come back and beat a fairly decent Grand Rapids team. They've got a very good passing attack. spearheaded by quarterback Corey Fitzgerald, who we've chronicled before as being one of the classic Suburban's leading passers a year ago. And Jared Etchen has been a good wide receiver, and Jordan Safan has been their top receiver. And if they can get the running game going with this Deron Jarvis, that would be a big key. But that's going to be a tough challenge for Richfield on the road against, I think, a pretty good Tartan team.
Nick, on the subject of road trips, we have we have North Branch coming down from the far northern suburbs to play Cooper in a North Suburban game.
The beauty of the North Suburban Conference, Mike, or at least what it is now, we'll see when these conferences officially kind of start to reshuffle. A lot of people might expect what happens with a school like North Branch. But yeah, it's a long bus ride. North Branch comes down to play a Cooper team who could be on the verge of its 5th win of the year that night. They've been really dynamic offensively. They got about 3 or 4 guys that are taking turns running the ball right now, including their quarterback DJ Abear, who continues to do a tremendous job directing that offense. This one probably won't be close. North Branch has struggled since joining the North Suburban football-wise, and Cooper seems to be kind of really coming into its own under the second year of John Bazuin's tenure there as head coach. So look for a big Cooper win. Another game I wanted to bring up real quick is Wednesday, October 14th. Another long bus ride. Orono goes up to Annandale for a Wright County conference game. Orono's been impressive. Their lone loss has been to Glencoe Silver Lake. This could be one of those games you almost classify as a trap. Annandale last year in week 5 did something no other team in the state of Minnesota has been able to do yet, and that is score on Glencoe. They actually took a 6-0 lead in a game that Glencoe eventually won 21-6. That's the only points Glencoe had given up through the first 5 weeks. They've been that good. So we'll see. Annandale looks to be okay. Orono had a huge win against Armstrong. They looked really good that night. And this is the game, week 7 game. Week 8 they played Delano. Delano was also undefeated. They had yet to play Glencoe, but one of those games where maybe you're looking ahead. Who knows? It's a long bus ride. But we'll see. I expect Orono to go up there and win, but it could be a tough trip.
The schools in what will be the South Suburban Conference next year are probably looking at some of these games where teams are having to go on the road and travel, and they're saying that's why we're getting out. All right, good stuff, guys. Thanks a lot. Thanks to all of you out there for watching us on the web or listening to us on the radio. For executive producer Greg Huff, associate producer Mike Hackett, I'm Mike Shaughnessy, joined by Nick Clark, Greg Kleven, and John Sherman. We'll see you next week on Sun on Sports.
Stay tuned for more Sun on Sports, your insider's guide to Minnesota high school athletics. For the scores and more, tune in daily to mnsun.com/sports. And tune in every Saturday morning to Sun on Sports on AM 950, the voice of Minnesota.